Okay.
It'll all work out.
All right. I can do the chanting. My
All right. Well, let's
my
let's
Sanskrit
have
Vidi
our
is going.
let's have our starting chants. Just and then we'll turn it over to you.
Okay.
I can't see who that is. It's too far away.
This is Vinayak.
Vinayak, how are you? How do you own?
Yo.
I should have recognized your voice. I'm sorry.
No, it's
All
fine.
right.
It's been a few months. I haven't joined.
Let's chant first. Om. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam. Tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Bandhus cha Sakha Tvameva Vedya Dravinam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Well, we should probably add a fourth Shanti. The tradition is you say peace from all the things in the environment, peace from any physical ailment, and then peace from any internal disturbance. But we'll have to add a fourth Shanti for technical difficulties now.
Totally, we should.
Yes, yes. So thank you all for your patience. We're starting late, and we are in our fourth chapter, Jnana Yoga, and we are almost to the end. We only have about 8 to 10 verses left. So we've been discussing this idea of knowledge and how, even though we're acting in the world, we want to take on the viewpoint of the witness, be beyond the body, mind, intellect, and its activities. So, Mark, you said we're now on verse 34.
That's right. Uh-huh.
All right, Vinayak, will you help us out, please? I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tatvadharshinah.
And the English?
Know that by long prostration, by question and service, the wise who have realized the truth will instruct you in that knowledge.
So he's talking about these great Mahatmas who are Dharma holders. They hold the tradition. We have in Viveka Chudamani a section where it talks about qualifications of a fit teacher. And the first qualification, always with Shankara when he lists a series, the most important thing is what's listed first. And he says Shrotriyam is the first, meaning, literally means well-versed in the scriptures, but it means someone who can wield the means of knowledge, who has the capacity to take the student from point A to the infinite. And he says, who's a full knower of the Supreme, not somebody who said, oh, I had an experience once years ago, who has retired into the Supreme, whose mind no longer extroverts into the world, who's sinless, not afflicted by mental agitations and inauspicious desires in the world, who's as calm as a fire that has burned up its fuel. All the coals are banked. Who's an endless Daya Sindhu, an ocean of compassion, ocean of mercy, and an intimate friend of those who have surrendered unto him. So these Mahatmas, our great souls, have the capacity to take us to the beyond. But notice the first idea is Shrotriya. So here's a hypothetical question. If you can find a teacher who is well-versed in the means of knowledge, but you don't know whether or not they're a man or woman of realization, or you find someone who's a man or woman of realization, but who perhaps, say, had a spontaneous enlightenment, or who is not well-versed in the scriptures, which is most useful to the student? It's counterintuitive. The one who's Shrotriyam. Because in the end, you and I must do the work ourselves. Krishna has said a person raises themselves into the self by themselves. It's not the guru who does the work. It's you and me. So someone who can hand us the tools is more important than even someone who's abiding in the self-knowledge. Ideally, you want both. Ideally, you want both. It's counterintuitive. But here Krishna says, if we surrender to that person, we follow the instructions as they're laid out in the Vedanta, meaning those ways of sending our mind along certain ways of thinking and investigation as laid out in the Upanishads. That's what's going to take us to the end. Any questions on this? It's a very interesting point. Next verse.
Okay. अपि चेदशि पापेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः पापकृतमः सर्वं ज्ञानप्लवेनैव vrijinam santarishyasi. Even if you are the most sinful of all sinners, Yet you shall verily cross all sins by the raft of knowledge.
Yes. So, in the practice of this truth, and as you more and more practice this knowledge, this jnana abhyas, even if you're a very vulgar person, Krishna says you will cross this ocean of samsara. I love what St. Augustine used to say. Every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So he gives us this verse. So if we're honest with ourselves and we realize, oh yeah, I'm filled with stinking vasanas, as Swamiji used to call it. I have a lot of reactivity, I have a lot of worldly desires. Yoga isn't for me. It's for better people than me. Krishna says, no, it's fine. It's for you. Now we're going to give you a way through your desires, through your activity in the world, to purify your mind so that you can reach the end. Vedanta is the most compassionate of all religions. Nobody's damned. Nobody's left behind. Nobody's not worthy. Anyone can walk this path. Anyone. Now, I like to use this metaphor. Which is more beautiful, the first rose of the season or the last? They're both beautiful. They just bloom in a different time, in a different season. And you can't take a rose bud and pull the petals off trying to make it a bloom. It will bloom in its season. So also for you and I, for you and me. Swamiji always used to say it's an evolution, not a revolution. It doesn't do any good to do violence to our mind or think we're going to reach the infinite through acts of suppression. It only bends the mind and in the end makes it unfit for practice. This is why these 3 chapters on karma yoga, 3, 4, and 5, are so important. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Yathe dhamasi samidho nirbhasha matsakbrupte Arjuna jnanagniha sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. As the blazing fire reduces fuel to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge reduce all actions to ashes.
So it's a beautiful, beautiful metaphor. Because at one point in the early part of our sadhana, we're doing the do's and the don'ts, the yamas and the niyamas. And we endeavor to purify the head and the heart. Don't be a jerk. Try to be a better human being. Swamiji used to call the art of man making. But then things start to switch. After our minds are subtle enough to enter into investigation, into atma vichara, inquiry into the nature of the self, way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. You be the witness. Let it go, let it go, let it go. And knowledge, when I get rooted in this understanding, I'm the untouched witness. The success and failure of the body, the honor and dishonor that comes to the body, none of that touches me. We're like the center of the cyclone. All goes on around. Keep dropping any personal sense of self. The ultimate purifier is to understand you're already pure. Disidentify from this limited conditioning of body, mind, intellect. Stay rooted in the knowledge that you are Brahman. And over again, as the vasanas try to assert themselves, we let it go, we let it go, we let it go. Until we have sthita prajna, constant, effortless, steady wisdom. Any thoughts on this? All right, next one.
Nahi jnane na sadrasham pavitra meha vidyate tat swayam yoga samsiddham kale natmani vindati. Certainly, there is no purifier in this world like knowledge. He who is himself perfected in yoga finds it in the self in time.
So there are a couple ways we can approach this. In the exoteric understanding, much of Hindu teaching has to do with ritual purity. So, for example, if you're a Brahmin, ideally only Brahmins are supposed to cook your food. You're not supposed to touch dead bodies. You're not supposed to deal with human refuse, etc. And the other castes have their particular injunctions too. So one's always dealing with this idea of, oh, have I been made impure? Do I need to be purified? And ritual is what's done to expiate impurity, papam, and to accrue purity, punya, merit and demerit. But here Krishna is saying that's a never-ending process. I always think of something the Master Jesus said, which can apply to Hindus just as much as it did to Jews in his time. He said, a person is defiled far more by what comes out of their mouth than by what they put in it. We are far more defiled by our speech than by the food we eat. But there's an ultimate purifier. And that's to shift our identity away from the body, mind, and intellect. Or even if you want to interpret it from the standpoint, oh, I have a really impure mind. I'm filled with resentment. I'm filled with anger. I'm filled with greed. I'm filled with envy. All these negative personality traits. We can work on them. But here Krishna is saying the best way is just watch them and get out. Step out of the mind. Just watch them arise and let them go. They're not real and they're not you. I'm ever the untouched, uninvolved witness of the mind. There's never any value in beating ourselves up. I've been doing this work for 46 years now. If I had ever seen anyone get any value from beating themselves up mentally, oh, I'm so terrible. Why did I do that? How could I have done that? I'm such a terrible person. I have never seen one person improve, get peace, get value from that. It doesn't work. I like to tell a true story. Years before COVID, I used to go up to Lakeshore and go get a pedicure because I can no longer see my feet. So I would go have them take care of my toenails and things like that. And there was this young gal, oh, she looked like a teenager and didn't speak any English. And she was working on the cuticle of my big toe and she inadvertently stabbed me and it was bleeding. And she was horrified. So she takes the little tool and she shows me her thumb and then she stabs her own thumb. That's crazy. Her mind was saying somehow if she hurt herself, this was going to make it somehow different or better. Now, we may look at that kind of behavior and think that's a little bit crazy. But don't we do much of the same thing psychologically to ourselves? How much time do we spend psychologically beating ourselves up? How could I have done that? Oh, I feel so guilty. Doesn't change anything, doesn't fix anything. Now, what will, if you've hurt or harmed somebody, make an amend. Say you're sorry and work on not doing it again. That will help. But indulging in psychological self-abuse does nothing. It's just some kind of self-indulgence. Give it up. It's pointless. It's useless. It's not effective. Any thoughts on this? So the greatest of all purifiers is to step out of the mind. Stay identified with that witnessing consciousness. Next verse.
Shraddha valambate jnanam tatpara sayantendriya jnana labdhava param shantim achirenda achirenda gachati. The man who is full of faith, who is devoted to it, and who has subdued the senses, obtains knowledge. And having obtained knowledge, long he goes to the supreme peace.
So we need to have faith. Faith that this path, this journey is efficacious, that it will work. How do we build our faith? We read the scripture. Scripture thunders, it's true, it's true. We read or listen to the testimony of great saints and sages who say, yes, I've traveled the path, it's true, it's true. You think it through. Real spirituality is reasonable if you think it through. Then you practice so you have direct experience. And you're going to get the message from the world. The world is going to say, it's cash and prizes. That's what's it all about. Go ahead, lie, cheat, and steal. The smart person is the one who doesn't get caught. And the yogi has to have faith. Know there's another way of living that in the end will deliver the goods. And full of devotion to love this work, to love this practice, to love God, which is the engine that inspires us into our spiritual sadhana. Here Krishna says, you will make it. Don't worry. You will reach the other shore. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Agyashchadad dhanascha samsayatma vinashyati nayam loko asti na paro na shukham na sanshatmanaha. The ignorant, the faithless, the doubting self goes to destruction. There is neither this world nor the other, nor happiness for the doubter.
So the person who doubts this, doubts themselves, doubts if they can be successful, the ignorant, the doubter, there's neither success in this world nor beyond. Because we become paralyzed and fearful, can't do anything. Becomes a wasted life in many ways. To have faith, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Remember, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. What? Yes, because if it's really hard and you've never done it before, the first time you try, you're not going to be very good at it. But you've got to be willing to come back to it and practice and gain the skills. I can remember years ago when I was teaching voice, and I would have young singers who would be having difficulty hitting high notes. And they would say, well, what's the secret? What's the trick? How I hold my mouth? What do I do with my breath or my neck or anything? And I'd say, in the end, there's no trick. What you do is every day you do your scales and you sing up to the highest you can comfortably do. And you do it every day. And you sing for a minimum of half an hour a day. And then after a week, you'll add another note, maybe another note after that. And in time, you will increase your range. There's no secret to it. It's just practice. It's all there is to it. People playing the piano. Oh, I can't play that passage. It's too hard. Well, start by playing it really slowly, but correctly, and keep doing it. And in time, you will be able to play it up to speed. There's no secret. It's practice. And it's the same in the spiritual life. There's no magic pill. It's practice. But if you practice, you will get results. That's the promise. Any thoughts? Next one.
Yoga sannyas satkarmanam jnanas sanchinasam sayam atmavantah na karmani nibandhinanti dhananjaya. He who has renounced actions by yoga, whose doubts are rent asunder by knowledge, who is self-possessed, actions do not bind him, O Dhananjaya.
So, what are the actions we are supposed to renounce? How do we renounce actions by knowledge? There's some paradox here. We want to give up all ego prompted desires and activities. What does this mean? When I have in my mind the idea, the insistence, I'll be happy when, it will be better if, more, better, different, I need it, I need it, I need it. And I engage in action towards that result, thinking it's going to satisfy me. I may get a little bit of pleasure, but it's gone. It's never permanent. The yogi wants to renounce those ego-driven activities. What activities should I do? My duty. If you're a family person, you've got responsibilities. You've got a family to take care of, a mortgage to pay, etc. You do your duty in the world. Go to work, do a good job. Aspire for excellence for the sake of excellence. And you'll find a lot of extraneous stuff will begin to fall away. There are those particular yogis, it's their particular product of the karma of their life, where they choose to leave the world, to take up sannyas, to take up a life of renunciation, to become a swami or a swamini. But that's not necessary, and it's not for everyone. The real sannyasi is the person who's given up all attachment and all identification with the sense of agency. Let the body, mind, intellect act its way in the world. Put the robot on automatic. You ever stay the uninvolved witness. You go nowhere. It's the world that passes in front of you. Watch the movie. Watch the movie. This is real sannyas. You can give up all the toys, but if you are still attached even to the idea, look at me, I'm a great sannyasi, you still are a fool. Get out. Have no concern for it. Why? Because I've deeply understood. None of it ever touches or changes me. I don't need to be improved and I can't be detracted from. And secondly, where the heck is happiness? Happiness is the mind abiding in the self. Even when I get a little bit of juice through the world, it's still only just a taste of myself. The world isn't bad, it's just empty. So this is the deepest meaning of sannyas. There's no virtue in being poor. There can be a lot of peace in being simple, according to your own proclivities. Whatever place in the world the Lord has placed your equipment, to fulfill that function in the great drama of life. Any thoughts on this? All right, next one.
That's the end of the chapter.
All right. So now we start chapter 5, Karma Vairagya Yoga, the renunciation of action in knowledge. Did I leave out part of it? It is Karma Jnana Vairagya. I've forgotten the Sanskrit.
Trying to look at it. So it says chapter 5 stands as a bridge between karma yoga and pure meditation.
6 is meditation. Anyway, let's just start. Chapter 5.
Arjuna Vacha Sanyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam cha Samasasi Yachreya Etaryokam Tanme Bruhi Sunishchitam. Renunciation of actions, O Krishna, you praise again and again. Yoga, performance of actions. Tell me conclusively that which is the better of the two?
So, which is better? Should I withdraw from the world, live the life of a monk or a nun? Or should I be a person engaged in the world? Which is better? This is an age-old tension in the spiritual life. Even back in the time of the Buddha, the earliest Buddhists were called Theravada Buddhists, and they were all monastics. And later you had what they call the greater vehicle, the Mahayana vehicle. The Mahayanas look to the Theravadas and call it the Hinayana path, the lesser vehicle. Always this tension. Do you withdraw from the world or do you stay engaged? Even in Hinduism, we have this great reverence for people who've taken sannyas, who've left the world. We revere them. Which is better? To leave the world, be a wandering sadhu, or to stay engaged in the world? This is Arjuna's question. And it's one that faces all of us. So let's see how the Blessed Lord begins to deal with it. Going on.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishres Sakarva Bahu Tayotstu Karmanas Karmanyasta Karma Yogo Vishashyate. The Blessed Lord said, renunciation of action and yoga of action both lead to the highest bliss. But of the two, yoga of action is superior to the renunciation of action.
Yes. So here he says, and this is for most of us. He's specifically talking to Arjuna, but he's talking to most of us. You can leave the world and lead the life of a renunciate, and that's a valid path. Or you can act in the world, practicing karma yoga, and do your yoga using the worldly situations as your guru, as grist for the mill. And Krishna says that's actually the superior path. Another thing to understand, leaving the world and becoming a monk or a nun is an action. In the end, the state of your life, what you do in action, is almost irrelevant. You will be where the Lord places you, doing the job that the Lord wants you to do. Don't worry about it a lot. If the desire to leave the world and become a sannyasi arises in your bosom, then the Lord will make that happen. If, on the other hand, you head in that direction thinking this is going to make you holier, doesn't work that way. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Nyeha sanitya sannyasi yona dveshti na kankashti nidvando hi mahabaho sukham bandha pramuchyate. He should be known as a perpetual sannyasi who neither hates nor desires. For free from the pair of opposites, O mighty aunt, he is easily set free from bondage.
So this is the practice of perpetual sannyas. Whether you wear the orange cloth or a three-piece suit downtown, who neither hates nor craves, where the mind has let go of this raga and this dvesha, this craving for things and this aversion for other things, where you have this equanimity of mind. Whatever situation the Lord brings, you're at peace. It's almost like you make a decision. Make our peace of mind our most prized possession. No person, no situation, no occurrence in the world is more important than my peace of mind. Get our priorities straight. Other people will not support you in that. If they think there's a crisis, you're supposed to be upset. Don't you know? Blah, 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 blah. But you maintain your shanti, your peace. It's all going to work out. Just put one foot in front of the other. Do your best. Make peace of mind your most prized possession. It is more important than anything in the world. And each of us must choose that. We can't wait. What my ego says is, well, let me get the world all fixed, then I'll have peace of mind. No. You choose peace of mind and watch how the world fixes itself. Or if it isn't fixed like you care, be cool. Shitala, cool. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Sankhya yoga pratagbalaha pravadanti na pandita ekam pyastitha samyak gurbhyo vadinte phalam. Children, not the wise, speak of Sankhya and Yoga as distinct. He who is truly established, even in one, obtains the fruits of both.
So by Sankhya, here we mean the path of knowledge for the jnani who has renounced everything, taking this incredibly direct ascetic path. Yoga here, he means the yoga of action, karma yoga. Only people of limited understanding see them as different. But the wise person sees them as just two sides, really, of the same thing. What do we mean by this? We start right here, right now, with the life we have. And what do? Let's review these 5 elements we've been talking about. Act. How? According to your swadharma, do your duty in the world. According to your inherent latent proclivities. Ride the horse in the direction it's going. In the yajna spirit, in the spirit of selfless service, not to serve your own ego needs. Dedicate your activity to something greater than yourself. Renouncing our attachment to the fruits of action. Thy right is to work alone, never to its fruits. All we get in this world is the work. The Lord is the giver of the fruits of action. And the 5th element, which we've been working on, our renunciation of the sense of agency. I am not the doer. It is guna and karma, the qualities of the mind and the force of the past as it interacts with the society. That's the agent. Your eyes blink. You don't have to go blink, 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 blink. You don't think about it. They just do it. Your heart beats. Your hair grows. Let your activity in the world be like that. You stand back. You are not the agent. You are not the doer. You are the still witness of it all. If you're sitting still, that's the action of sitting still. If you're running around the lake, that's the action of running around the lake. You're cooking a meal, that's the action of cooking the meal. And whatever the mind and the intellect do to do all that stuff, you ever stay the witness of it all. Uninvolved. All right, that's a good place to stop. What number are we on, Vinayak?
We are on number 4.
Okay, so we have a few minutes for questions. Any questions from anyone? Going once? Going twice? All right, well, let's meditate then.